Welcome back to Open House with Mark Siwiec and Corey James Moran, brought to you by Legion Homes by Mark Siwiec and Associates, a greater Rochester real estate podcast. This is episode 174 and our final episode of 2024.
It is our final episode. That's right, because this will drop next week, just before New Year's. Yeah.
Just before New Year's, yeah, so probably Monday, Tuesday.
How was Christmas?
It was chaos. In the best possible way.
Okay, good.
I mean, just wrapping paper everywhere. It's funny when you watch little kids open presents, they have to like rip up into tiny little pieces. They can't just do like one big
is that right?
Unwrapping. Yeah, so it's absolutely everywhere.
Wow.
But the kids had a blast. You'll be shocked though, the next day Mason was sick.
So, oh, come on. Oh my God.
I know. He's bouncing back today, so he's fine, but
Macy, man.
He's going around.
Court seemed, she was like she was all over social media, this postpartum bliss. She seemed to really enjoy herself.
It did, and we got together with a family, which is
your parents
always fun.
were up?
My folks were in town for a couple of days, so it was very nice.
Great. Your mother she went dancing, I understand.
She actually broke her foot.
Oh, okay.
A couple weeks ago, so she had the boot on, but not a single complaint.
Oh, that's great.
Just built different. I don't know. How was your holiday?
I was nice.
Calm, relaxing?
It was calm, relaxing. I'm sort of like, honestly, now that it's all done and over with, I'm actually just like, yesterday and today, just nothing going on. Just,
there you go. Nice.
Just loving it.
Well, you had to recover from your holiday party, the annual holiday party at the house. It was a great time.
That was a good one.
It was very fun.
That was one of the better parties we've thrown in. Yeah.
It's always amazing to watch you at those things because you need to kind of buzz around to everybody in the way that you're able to do that. How do you exit a conversation gracefully?
The God's honest truth, the real answer is there were over 100 people there. So I'm just like, listen, I'm so sorry, but somebody just walked in 10 minutes ago, or somebody's getting ready to walk out the door. So you honestly just have to say, I'm so sorry, but I just need to go and say goodbye to them or say hello to them.
There you go.
Yeah.
Easy enough.
But there's not a conversation. There's nobody there that I don't want to have a conversation with. Sure. Everybody there is somebody that I'm genuinely, truly interested in conversing with. So,
great stuff. Let's see. On the podcast today, we'll look forward to 2025, talk about some predictions for the new year on a national level and then also locally here in Rochester. Okay. We'll talk about New Year's Eve as well. What are your big New Year's Eve plans?
I plan on doing what it is that I do every year, which is go to bed around 10 o'clock.
Okay. That's close.
It's just not a holiday.
When did the allure of waiting and staying up until midnight wear off for you? It's been a good 7 years for me, probably.
7?
Yeah, probably. Even pre-kids.
I'm talking like 20, 30 years. like literally sometime in like my late 20s, my early 30s at the most. No, it's just never been a big,
But if you do want some things to do in New Year's, we do have some things going on locally here that we can chat about real quick.
Great. What do you got, bud?
One of them is really interesting, and this would be really good for the kids. Maybe we'll get the kids out of the house and go to this one. So the Seneca Park Zoo is doing something really unique. It's the Seneca Park Zoo's New Year's Eve.
Oh.
So they're actually going to have a ball drop at the zoo at noon.
Oh, that's awesome.
So go out early, bring the kids. It's always a fun time to go out there.
Oh, that's actually really, really. I gotta say, some of their programming is very, very innovative. They've got
the Zoo Brews. I mean, everyone loves the Zoo Brews.
They've got a good staff and a good team putting this kind of thing together. So that's really awesome.
So that's a fun one that you could do. There's an event over at Artisan Works in Rochester. That's going to be a mixture of art and music. A 90s theme party is happening at Three Heads, the brewery.
Oh, that's nice.
And then over at the Strath Allen, they have their Pop Fizz Clink Champagne New Year's Eve. If you've never been to the top of the Strath, by the way, at Hattie's, the bar up there, you can get a 360 view of the entire
it's very
city,
nice. Yeah,
which
very,
is always
very nice.
Very, very cool. So there's some things happening.
I understand that Greasetown Mall is actually hosting a New Year's Eve party. Is that right?
No, they might be closed again. Third year in a row on December 26th that it had to be shut down early and a large police presence had to be brought in.
So many questions. Who owns the Grease? It's not Wilmerite any longer, is it?
I believe so, because they own.
I mean, these are good people and they're smart people. Okay, just a suggestion. Next year, 3 days in advance of what day is it? The
26th.
Oh, okay, the day after Christmas.
Yeah.
The day after Christmas. You might want to hire a little bit of additional security. Just a thought. Just a thought.
It is very odd, and they last year, after the second time that it happened, they put the curfew in place where No one under the age of 19 was allowed in without a guardian.
Oh, okay.
But that did not really stop it. It's interesting because people, talk about other malls where this doesn't happen. Eastview, for example, has had a very strict minor policies for years. And I guess one of the things about Grease Ridge is that they tend to be a little bit more reactive to these situations,
clearly,
as opposed to trying to get ahead of it. But yeah, pretty wild. It was like 6 o'clock on the 26th.
So people were arrested again?
There was a couple that were arrested for fighting. A bunch of fights broke out. Just ugly stuff.
Wow.
Especially in the holidays.
Yeah, come on, ho ho ho.
So I don't know. Is it like a planned gathering that takes place?
Yeah.
Does everyone have a lot of gift cards from the holidays burning in their pocket? They're trying to get to their target.
I mean, can you believe that my father bought me this tie? The anger and the hostility.
Could be. It could be bad.
Like, oh my God, Mom got me this ugly sweater. I am furious.
That's got to be it.
I'm going to beat the shit out of somebody.
It's a bad gift remorse.
Let me go to Greasetown Mall.
Could also just return it, but no.
Yeah.
So interesting stuff there. All right, you want to jump into a little bit of real estate? Get our updates here.
Yeah.
Nothing happening, of course. New listings in Monroe County, or single active family listings anyway. 314 right now. It's down from 367 last episode.
Well, okay.
6 county region down to 617
from
677. Just stuff that's lingering.
Right. Is
anyone listing things this week?
No. I mean, we continue to sell a little bit, but we're not listing anything. No.
And then under contract and pending properties, 848 last week. That's dropped to 778.
Okay.
In the 6 county region, 1276 last week. We're at 1164. So it's going to be very dull. Mm-hmm. When do you project things take off a little bit?
Well, I know that our team, we should actually talk about that. So the Mark Siwiec team no longer exists after next week. After several decades, literally, of running the Mark Siwiec team and doing so successfully, Mark Siwiec team isn't going to exist. It's just going to be, probably about 15 or so agents tied to and associated with Elysian Homes. But that which currently is the Mark Siwiec team, we have 12 properties coming in the market for sale in the month of January.
Maybe more. I've got a couple others in the works.
Okay, there we go.
Don't tell the staff; they're going to love it.
Well, yeah, but I'm spending this weekend just talking to everybody and just making sure that we're getting things tied up and ready. So that's a lot of real estate to be listing that early in the year, and then you add on the other agents who are now tied to and associated with Elysian, and I think we're going to have a good strong start to the year. And I think that it's all going to start to hit probably about the third week of January. Okay. Well, actually, and for me, I'll be out of town, so I'll be on vacation for about 2 weeks. As soon as I get back, I'm going to have everything teed up so that I land, and then immediately we just start selling property.
It's full go.
Full go. Yeah.
Let's get our mortgage interest rate update before we get into it.
Do we have to?
I know. Well,
we were having such a nice conversation.
There's not a ton to really chat about. I mean, it's pretty much exactly where it was. 7.12 right now, down from 7.13 last week. The 15-year went up just a little bit. It's at 6.48, and that is up from 6.42.
Yeah. Not great. I'm very optimistic about next year in general. I continue to be less than enthusiastic about where it is that mortgage rates are headed next year. I just don't see any improvement.
And the turning point on that was the Fed saying they're expecting now 2 rate cuts in 25 versus the 4.
Right. That's part of it, and then as we've said ad nauseum, Donald Trump and and many of the policies that he's going to implement that are viewed as inflationary. I mean, if you think about it, last week's PCE came in.
It was low, actually, wasn't it?
It was low, exactly. So the metrics continue to tell us one story, but it seems as if the bond market is just not interested in these metrics because they are constantly thinking about where's the economy headed in the future, and
we just don't know at this point.
Well, certainty, I read their reaction as I think that perhaps the war on inflation was won, and it may be reignited yet again post inaugural. So who knows? But I'm not particularly excited or enthusiastic. So
what do you think happens if that inflation rate ticks back up to 3 or 4% or 5%?
That's going to be really interesting. So I think it's a 2-part answer. One, I think that 30-year mortgage rate just starts to shoot up, and we're suddenly looking at 7.5, 7.75, perhaps even touching 8% again. what the second part is, and what I think is the more interesting question, what then does President Trump do, or how does he behave in reaction to interest rates going up that high?
Blame Biden, probably. I mean,
good answer.
To a degree.
To a degree.
Sure.
And what's really interesting about that is, he wants to try to control all things. That's just part of his genetic makeup and his being. But he's not going to be able to control the behavior of bond traders.
Sure.
He just doesn't have that skill set. And he also doesn't have the ability to control the actions of Jerome Powell. So it's going to be very, very, very interesting to see whether or not he's then forced to pull back on some of these upcoming initiatives.
I'm curious to see what really moves the needle this year because, for the majority of 2024, it was all the economic reports. It was the job reports. It was the PCE, CPI. And it seems as if at this point, none of those are really doing much moving of the needle. So what will it be in 2025?
I think it's just soothsaying, predicting the future, trying to read the tea leaves as to where it is that the economy is headed. That's at least in probably the first half of the year. And then once he's been in office for several months, then we'll start to get some hard data that is going to, I think, really be more subjective. Or objective, I should say. Yeah. So,
and I think with that said, if you're a buyer or a seller, a prospective buyer, prospective seller, you probably want to buy or sell in the beginning part of the year because we at least have a handle on what's happening. I mean, the reality of the situation is the second half of the year could go in about a million different directions.
Yeah, well, and I think we talked about it last year when we were interviewing Jill. I mean, when you've got him suing, when you've got Donald Trump suing two different newspapers, and when you've got him saying that he's going to jail Liz Cheney, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that's a lot of chaos. And of course, we know and understand and realize that he was elected because people like this brand of politics. But when the rubber hits the road, it'll be very interesting to see at that point in time. Okay, great. It sounds good when you're on the campaign trail, but when you're actually occupying the Oval Office, and there are real world consequences. Oh, and then of course this past week, then he's now saying that he wants to take over Panama and he wants to buy Greenland. So
cool. Okay.
Let's move on.
So midway next year, where do we see rates? Mid sixes if things go pretty well.
I don't know. Let me step over to the dartboard.
Right. Yeah.
Mid sixes?
Yeah.
No.
You think it'd be lower or higher?
Higher.
I think it's gonna be higher still.
Oh yeah. I don't really see rates coming down from where they are, bud.
Okay.
I mean,
7 handle the whole way through. Maybe an 8. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, they might touch down to 6.8, 6.9. But the bulk of the majority of this coming year, I think, which is just, once again, Lucy and Charlie Brown and that football, because once again we were told that and led to believe that mortgage rates were going to start to come down. They started to do so, and then boom, all of a sudden the football was pulled away from us. So
right. Next projection: home prices, national first. It's going to increase still in the majority of places.
Yeah, but
not a lot. I don't think.
But 3%.
Yep.
Yeah. What do you think?
3 or 4% for just nationally. Obviously, there's going to be pockets like we've already seen in Florida, where it's probably going to be even, maybe a little bit of appreciation, or it could honestly go the other way again.
Certainly, pockets of Florida are going to go below water, both figuratively and literally. Yeah.
Rochester, though, again, we're expecting it to be strong. Another 7% jump. I think we were 7.4 for 2024.
Yeah. So just yesterday, I came upon a list in some of my readings in which Rochester was the it landed the number 7 spot of those municipalities in the country that saw an increase in the value of the property. And so we were at 7.4%. It's not sort of the double-digit increases that we're seeing over the course of the past few years, but you add that 7.4% on top of the increases that we've already enjoyed, that's pretty remarkable. So I do think that we're going to continue to see property values increasing here. I'm going to say somewhere around 5% increase, 5 or 6%.
Okay, so it's going to continue to dwindle down, you think?
Yeah. We're still going to see an increase, but not to the degree that we did. What do you think?
I think it's going to be probably more of the same, just because I don't really see
7% is what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't see a ton changing. I mean, I know that you're optimistic about the inventory. I think it's more of just us eating up more market share than it is necessarily more inventory that's going to be out there.
Crazy. I thinking egocentrically. Wow.
Because I mean, what if rates are going to stay the same? We're just going to see more of the norm in terms of what the inventory is going to be. It's still going to be low.
I actually, I'm not going to argue the point. I mean, I mean, seriously, point taken. Yeah. So the good news is we're going to continue to see an increase in the value of property. You know, whether it's 4, 5, 6, 7%, I'll take it. After the run that we've had, that's amazing.
Let's talk about some.
Actually, just an adjunct to that.
Sure.
For years, for several years after we started to see these increases, you know, on social media, in cocktail party conversation, et cetera, people just kept saying over and over and over again, you don't know what you're talking about. You know, we're going to see, you know, there's a bubble.
This may have happened recently.
Yeah, we're going to, but we're not, you're not hearing that any longer, are you?
I did.
Oh, you did? Come on.
I had a conversation recently, and I said, you know, their point was that basically what goes up must come down, was kind of where they came from it. And my counterpoint to that was, well, if this is simple supply and demand. Yeah. And if the different factors of supply and demand do not change, then why would the output change?
Right. Yeah, and you know, as we keep saying, it's a minimum of 3 to 5 years before we start to see, you know, really significant increases in inventory. So okay. I'm not hearing much of it any longer. I think people have just
it's more of an outlier. I would agree with that.
Okay,
for sure.
Great. Yeah.
But there's still some that I think are.
Yeah,
there's
still people who think that aliens were visiting New Jersey last week. So,
sure.
Anyway,
fair.
Moving on.
What was it though? What were those drones?
Oh, yeah.
How about some projected buyer and seller behavior? One of the things that's been talked about is a anticipated return of the millennial buyer who's been having a real tough time.
Yeah, I don't necessarily buy into that. You know, I mean, there's just not enough inventory. Back to the point from
sure.
There's just not enough inventory. So they may enter the market, but whether or not they're going to be successful and whether or not they're going to prevail in their bidding wars, there's just not enough.
I do think that we've seen the trend that beginning of the year, a lot of these buyers that experience buyer fatigue the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years, however long they've been looking, they do come with kind of a renewed energy.
Yep.
At least in the beginning.
Only to exhaust themselves come April, May.
Yeah, pretty much. Baby boomers downsizing as retirement accelerates. So that's one to really pay close attention to because there's two dynamics in play. The longer you're staying in that large house that you don't need anymore, compared to you have a 3% rate or it's paid off and you can't stomach buying something that might actually cost more to downsize.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. I think that these demographic changes that we've talked about, I think those are going to really start to, because we're really now year 5, we're going into year 5 of this trend, and people, there comes a point in time when people are saying, okay, I'm in the 5,500 square foot house, my taxes are X, my insurance is Y, my utilities are Z. And that's more money than I really want to spend for my wife and I. Let's just downsize to something smaller, even though we might have to lock in at a higher interest rate. Yep. I think it's just because people are just going to get to the point where they're just tired of feeding these homes in which 3/4 of the property remains vacant or empty.
One of the other trends I think is going to become even more of the norm are homes being passed down, given just the difficulties that young people are having. If your mom or dad has the house, instead of selling it, if they have the means to do so, giving it to their kids and then going and buying a condo. Yeah. I think we're going to see more of that this year.
I would not be surprised, not at all.
Thoughts on investors, where they stand in 2025? Is there going to be more interest? I mean, one of the things, at least in Rochester, that's really interesting in the surrounding areas are how much you're able to get for these rents.
Oh, yeah.
It used to be where you would never find a rental in Brighton or Pittsford because the property tax on it was so high. You could never, get the rent that you needed to make that make sense. This was the first year that we really began to see that kind of go the other direction. There was a house in Penfield, a 4-bedroom, that someone who moved to the area rented for $3,800.
That's insane. That is just insane.
But you're going to see a lot of that where people are relocating. They don't want to buy immediately, but they do want to have a house. They don't want to go to an apartment.
Yep.
So I think we're going to see more of that this year too.
I agree with that point, and I also think that there is always a group of individuals who want to become real estate investors, and especially if you're younger,
Sure.
They are more excited about and interested in, and they romanticize the whole the whole experience of becoming a property owner, and a landlord and a land baron. And so they just go out and they buy these properties one after another without really looking at the fundamentals. I think they exist out there. And then you've got more seasoned investors who just have not had any opportunity over the course of the past few years to add to their portfolio. I mean, I'm one of them. I mean, there's just been nothing out there that allows for a seasoned investor to actually continue to add to the portfolio. So I think that the investors are out there. I wouldn't be surprised if we started seeing more activity on their part.
Do you think there is movement from seasoned investors who have a large portfolio starting to spin a lot of those properties off?
I actually just got a call 2 weeks ago from somebody who's got a $10 million portfolio. And so he's going to sometime, probably in the next 2 months, spin off the first 3 or 4 properties. Probably a total of $1.25 million. But he's somebody who now wants to start to wind down. In part, he wants to do so, and this is controversial, but in part he wants to do so because he has lost faith in the city of Rochester.
Oh.
He's lost faith, specifically, Malik Evans
Turns the camera.
is just doing a shitty job.
When's the next mayoral election?
It's this year. It is this year. Sadly and unfortunately, there aren't any viable candidates to go up against him. My God, anybody with a pulse and and a willingness to throw their hat in the ring could probably become the next mayor of the city of Rochester.
How shocking is that? I mean, that's not just for the mayoral position here in Rochester. I mean, in large part, just politics in general. So many instances we find ourselves with not good options.
I mean, who wants to become an elected official? I mean, who wants to become president of the United States? I mean, I don't want to become president.
That pressure?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't want to become mayor of the city of Rochester. I mean,
So we're not launching your mayoral campaign right now?
God, no. No. I just don't think... sadly and unfortunately, I mean, I think that Bob Duffy was a really great mayor. I think Tom Richards was a really great mayor. But I think it sort of ends there. I mean, Lovely, as dysfunctional as it was, I mean, I actually do think that she had her finger on the pulse and was working toward the current mayor, though, and moving forward. I just don't see. It's ugly.
Well, that's going to be interesting then, from just a real estate standpoint of, are these areas that have been so hotly contested, Park Ave, East Ave, still going to be so? Yeah,
I mean, I do think that I do think that Park Ave in particular, there's always going to be a certain number of people who are going to want to live in the
walkability.
City, the walkability, the urban experience, the open air dining, et cetera, et cetera. So, but sadly and unfortunately, if you're looking at the city of Rochester and you've got the Crescent, you want to move into the Crescent, and then all of a sudden, well, you at least had downtown, you had North Winton Village, and you had Park Ave. Well, downtown now is it's a war zone. It's not even a war zone. It's just abandoned. So I think those who want to continue to have an urban experience do continue to live and will continue to live in the Park Ave neighborhood. But the number of viable and interesting options in the city has diminished so significantly. So,
other thoughts, trends, projections for 2025? I think we'll continue to see more people take advantage of multifamily for a owner-occupant situation.
Yes.
I think that continues, again, just by the nature of how difficult things are. Even, from a loan standpoint, you're able to get approved for a larger loan because you're able to calculate the rent you'll be receiving.
Right. And you're defraying your monthly expense. Yeah,
exactly.
That's really great. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw siblings, beginning to buy properties together. I think that's going to be more of a trend. It'll be interesting. We've talked about this any number of times. I think the number of agents is just going to continue to dwindle. I think the number of teams will continue to grow. I think they'll become more powerful. I think the ability for an individual agent to actually compete against teams, that's just going to continue to dwindle. So, yeah.
I think that we're going to see more people that want to build.
Oh God, yeah, but this is just an ongoing conversation.
Well, not even because I know where your head went. You went to these developments that are getting pushback. I'm talking about someone going and buying a plot of land, hiring a builder, and doing it kind of their own. I think we're going to see more of that because you kind of have to, because we're not seeing the larger developments that we should.
I would agree with you, save for the fact that there aren't any parcels of land for people to purchase. So
there's a few. There's not a ton. There's not enough that we need. But I think just where price points are right now, there are a lot of people that are just saying, screw it, I'm just going to build new.
And honestly, I have to defer to you on that because you have your finger on the pulse of that far better than I do. I just have no idea. So, yeah.
Anything else?
No, I mean, this is a great list, bud. I mean, seriously, you just put together like a really awesome. Was that you or was that our friend Chad?
I had some help.
You had some help.
But, my opinions are influenced into it, of course.
Yeah.
It's the prompts that you have to give it, okay?
No. Not a criticism. I mean, use the tools that are available to you. Yeah. Right? Yeah, seriously, those were great questions.
Awesome. All right, anything else you want to cover? Any shows you're watching? Anything bingeable?
I just saw the Martha Stewart documentary.
Okay, my wife watched this. She was very intrigued by it. I kind of saw it as I was passing through.
Did she like it?
She loved it. Yeah, and she was very impressed. So my wife has a marketing background.
Right. Yeah.
She was very impressed of the rebrand. After all the things that Martha went through, she's not at the level that she was prior to her jail time.
Yeah.
But the fact that she has any kind of presence at all is kind of amazing.
Well, as I was watching this, I had to question whether she had actually found herself in jail or not. How much longer could she perpetuate this? Everything is perfect, and just go out to the yard, grab some eggs that were freshly laid 10 minutes ago, and then spend 45 minutes, creating an omelet for your family for breakfast in the morning before you throw on your power suit. And
she was like the living version of Instagram before that was even a thing.
Yeah, well, exactly. But the question is, how much longer could one perpetuate this?
Sure.
It's just not sustainable from my point of view. But my God, I mean, she was a billionaire.
Yeah.
She became a billionaire before any other. She was one of the wealthiest women in the entire world, all based on making everything look beautiful. I was really, really, really. Do I like her as a person? No, I don't particularly.
Not even the Snoop Dogg rebrand?
That is
interesting.
Interesting. I think that's insane. I so much credit to her and to Snoop Dogg, both who, let's face it, they should both be irrelevant. But they found some magic, some chemistry that exists between the two of them.
Sure.
So, listen, again, do I like her? No. Do I respect her? Am I a big fan? Absolutely. And of course, it's just it's a well-worn trope at this point in time. But if she were a man, so much of the criticism that was lobbed at her wouldn't exist.
Sure. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, she's a bitch. She's unkind. She's cold. She's unfeeling. She's a Machiavellian.
Versus being businesslike and powerful.
Exactly. Those are traits that are all commendable.
Yeah.
When it is that that you're looking at a male mogul, a female mogul has it much more difficult. But again, hats off to her. So if you haven't, you said you didn't see it yourself, you might want to spend a few minutes just checking it out.
All right. Fair.
Yeah. And if nothing else, you might want to check out. That portion in which she's roasting Justin Bieber.
Oh, yeah.
That was really
I remember
funny.
that live. Yeah, I remember that happening.
That was really, really... And speaking of roast, Nikki Glaser.
No, she's a monster. Absolute monster. They're all monsters.
I was listening to her the other day. In fact, I had to go back and I had to re-watch the roast of Tom Brady because that was just so funny.
That was aggressive. That was very aggressive.
So funny. So as you probably saw, she's been signed on to host the People's Choice Award, I think.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah.
Did you see Bill Belichick's back in college football?
He's college football. Yeah. So
at 73.
Yeah. I mean, dude, just hang it like Aaron Rodgers. I'm not a big fan of Bill Belichick. You're not a fan, are you?
Belichick?
Yeah.
I don't have a real read on him because he was just kind of a curmudgeon. You don't really know who he is, right?
No, I think you do. I mean, look at Inflategate, and look at all of those controversies that were taking place when Tom Brady was,
Sure.
those were all being directed. I mean, I'm not a big fan. So
it's going to be interesting because I think, does he need the money? Does he want to go out on a high note without Brady? Because that was always kind of the criticism.
To demote yourself, to go from the NFL down to college football, I think that's a demotion. I don't know. I think it's like a well-known real estate agent here in town who refuses to retire is just afraid of looking at himself or herself in the mirror at the age of. I'm not going to drop any names, but just you've had a great run. Just take your success and cash it in and go spend time with your family. Dear God. On that note.
Anything else?
Happy New Year.
Well, thank you so much for listening, for watching. It's been a great 2024. And,
it has been.
Truly are looking forward to 2025. All right. Thanks again. Talk to you soon.